STEM education is vital for shaping the future, spurring innovation, and ensuring economic prosperity. Jobs in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics are fundamental in promoting the sustained growth of an economy, laying the foundation which other sectors build upon in every nation's success story. 40% of Africa's population is under the age of 15. The reality of the continent's growing youth population and the potential to become a hub of tech talent cannot be ignored. However, there is an existing gap between the current educational curriculum in Nigerian schools and what the job market demands in the face of new and advanced technologies. Can Africa step up to take advantage of this teeming youth population by providing adequate STEM education and jobs, which hold the potential to add $500 billion a year to the continent's economy in the next 30 years? That would be 1/3 of the current GDP. Today, we'll be joined by a STEM education expert who will guide us into the future of tech education for Africa's youth population.
Hello and welcome to Tech into the Future, where we talk about everything that's happening in tech and how it affects you. My name is Tomiwa Adekomo. I'm the CEO of TechCabal, a digital publication that's been covering African tech for the last decade.
And my name is Ngozi Madweke-Dozie. I look after Android partnerships for West Africa at Google. Alongside Tomiwa, I will be your guide into the world of technology in Nigeria, Africa, and the world. Welcome back to Tech into the Future. Our focus today is on STEM education for kids and why parents need to pay more attention to this area of children's education. So here's the thing. The truth is education is changing alongside technology. And I guess the question is whether or not our schools are equipped. So I know that globally there's been a move to STEM education, especially when you think about the jobs that are going to be available in the future and whether or not we're preparing our kids for those jobs. So there's a global shift, definitely. And the question now is whether or not we in Nigeria on the continent are making that same shift.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely a key issue for us to consider. Our educational curriculums haven't been updated as regularly as they need to be. And so there's a pretty big gap in the education that we're giving, at all education levels. So that's from young kids to adults. And I think that the danger is the level of competency that you need in technology is starting much, much earlier. And so if you have young kids, then, at 3, if you're able to afford it, by 2-3 years old, they can use an iPad and they can find their favorite show on YouTube. And so there's a level of sort of technology literacy that kids are coming to earlier and earlier. At the same time, the barrier or the top end is also higher because now to be sort of a fully rounded employee, you need to have technical skills to deal in the world of software. AI is becoming a big thing, and so it's can you use the tools? And I think pretty soon we're going to be in a world where you have to be able to produce the tools in a certain extent. So it's not just using ChatGPT, it's can you create a model that will allow you to do your own work, or can you create a new interface with the models that the big companies have created so that it actually solves your own problems. And so it's not just that your kids need to have competency much earlier, but the total level of competency you need to have as an adult is getting much, much higher.
It is. And the thing about STEM, at least as I understand it, I know the acronym means science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. But I also know that it equips our kids with critical thinking and problem solving. It's a completely different way to approaching understanding the world, right? And I think that's even more critical. And the other thing that I'd mentioned in the cold open is that we have such a young population. And so, like you said, embedding it into the curriculum from even nursery school is now becoming a necessity as opposed to nice to have. So it's one thing for private schools to have those. It's another thing for me to be able to have it in my local government area in Enugu.
Yeah, so it's like, it used to be reading, writing, arithmetic, and it's like reading, writing, arithmetic,
That's right.
Computing, AI, like how early do you need to get into all of these things in order to be sort of fit for the workplace? And I think what's also important to mention is there's the curriculum and the formal educational system, and then you have sort of all these supplemental, and we'll talk a little bit about that, sort of supplemental efforts. And so you have education technology as a big field, which is how do we use technology to sort of sharpen kids' learning? And that can happen within the school system, or it can happen outside of the school system. And again, this is a place where you can see the rest of the world really, really running in the application of technology to drive. But a bit like we talked about when we talked about sort of increasing productivity with renewable energy in rural areas, our gaps in Africa mean that technology is a way to get past some of our deficiencies within the curriculum or within, yes, we always say you got to fix the fundamentals, but while you're waiting for the fundamentals to get fixed, can you use technology to improve the rate of learning for young people? Can you use it to improve the outcomes for our population?
And here's the thing, the ask is actually not too big, right? Again, when you look at the Indias and Chinas of the world, everybody talks about how, think about the Microsoft CEO and the Google CEO and the IBM CEOs. These are individuals that actually were trained in India and then moved over to the States, right? So that means that the core of their educational system was gotten outside of the United States. So it's not an early it's not, one shouldn't be asking why we're discussing this in Nigeria. We should be able to educate and equip our kids and our youth to be able to be CEOs of global companies.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be excited for us to have an educational system that rivals India's. I mean, so India has amazing technical education at all levels, and the top technical schools in India compete with Harvard and wherever else in the world. So there's a long road for us to go, but it does start with sort of actually paying attention to this, updating our curriculum, and then starting to sort of apply technology to sort of like really drive better outcomes. But we're going to speak with somebody who knows a lot more about this than we do. Today's guest is the co-founder of STEMmets Resources, a company that is dedicated to using STEM-based activities to equip young people in Nigeria and Africa with 21st century skills. With over 10 years of experience as an impact entrepreneur, she's worked with international organizations like the Airbus Foundation and leading edtech companies to deliver innovative STEM education to over 30,000 students and 500 teachers. Additionally, she co-organizes the annual STEAM Fun Fest, which is an engagement of 12,000 parents and children across 4 African countries. Welcome, Jadisola Adedeji. Good to have you with us.
Thank you so much, Tomiwa and Ngozi. I'm excited to be here.
Excellent. So to get the ball rolling, can you share with us what is STEMmets and what do you do at STEMmets?
Well, so basically we are raising the next generation of thinkers, of problem solvers, of children and youth that will change the face of what work and innovation looks like in Africa. So we have big visions. It's not just restricted to Nigeria alone, but it's really to revolutionize the way education is taught and learned in Nigeria. Moving away from that rote learning, which I call cramming and regurgitating, to a more sort of applied way of learning and also teaching. And for our kids to really learn how to think. Moving away from teaching them what to think, but really how to think and how to learn. And also understanding that learning is not an activity, it's actually a skill. that has to be developed. And so for us, STEM education really encompasses that because it's multidisciplinary skills that are being developed through STEM education and STEM skills generally.
And what factors informed your decision to focus on STEM education, and not just STEM education, but STEM education specifically for kids?
So our origin story goes back to my son. So, I don't know, 15 years ago, we moved back to Nigeria from Canada. And I saw him actually struggling to settle into the way teaching and learning was done here in Nigeria. And so I had this, 10-year-old who really would put together Legos or sleeping with a science encyclopedia, just started to lose interest in learning. And I could see he was struggling. He wasn't a cramming sort of learner. He was he learned by doing. He was really more analytical. And so as a mother, as a Nigerian mom especially, I was like, am I going to sit down and watch this boy deteriorate? Because it was across all facets, emotionally, socially. So I started researching more sort of modern alternative ways of learning, and I came across the concept of STEM, where you're combining aspects of science, technology, and engineering and math together. It's project-based, it's hands-on, it's experiential. And I thought, this is fantastic. So where can I find this in Lagos? And of course, I couldn't. So the first few years when we came back, we actually used to go abroad just for them to go to camp. And it was on one of those trips that I came across this STEM program. So I guess at the back of my mind and my consciousness, I already had this thing I was searching. And I came across this advert in an in-flight magazine, which was STEM education using Lego, a fun tool or a toy, to teach. And I thought, this is fantastic. It's innovative, it's different, it's practical, it ticked all the boxes. And so that's how this holiday now evolved into a business trip. And that's how I evolved from a pharmacist, well, science-based, into an educator. And so really, that really was our origin story.
I love it.
It's fantastic. I want to talk about how to think and how to learn as an area of focus for you. As the world changes and as technology changes quicker, it seems to me, and I've heard this said, that sort of the most important skill that you can give a young person or anybody joining the workforce is actually the ability to learn and to be able to teach themselves. So how does the education you give them at STEM Mets, how does it prepare young people to teach themselves and to learn as an ongoing thing?
So a lot of the programs we have are project-based. So basically, it's a project in itself in the learning. So you're following instructions, you're stepping back, you're thinking, it's more or less like design thinking, right? So you're iterating as you're going along. If it's not working, you've put your Legos together, it's not working, you have to step back and try and troubleshoot and figure out why I can't move on to the next stage. So in that way, you're thinking, in that way, you are going in with new eyes and assessing and questioning. And trying to come up with a solution. So that project-based or competency-based type of learning and teaching is actually what develops those thinking skills, those learning skills. So I just don't have data or text in front of me that I'm cramming. I'm actually trying to apply what I've learned to what I'm trying to figure out in front of me. So I could be in any scenario because I've learned how to learn and how to think. Whatever is put in front of me, I can systematically think through how to come up with a solution. So that's what project-based learning does. And that's an aspect of STEM education, and that's what it gives you. So if you're doing this repeatedly, and you're starting even from foundational years, so it's not just for secondary schools, if you're having sort of age-appropriate STEM programs from age 3, early years, those skills actually have an impact on your learning journey and how successful you are. There's a lot of research to support that, how successful you are and your earning potential. Because as you said, with advanced technology, it's really those skills that you have that you take with you. Not necessarily that biology knowledge. It's the skills that really science education and STEM education gives you. And it's transferable. So does that mean everyone who learns STEM becomes a scientist? No. But everyone should actually be exposed to STEM skills. And what are those? So they're along 3 columns. So It's learning skills, so critical thinking, communication, collaboration, like you've said, literacy skills, information literacy, media research literacy, the ability to research, and then life skills, flexibility, initiative, productivity. All of those are really what constitutes STEM education and STEM skills that can be applied to science. If I'm a lawyer, I still need to be able to have all those skills. If I'm an engineer. So that notion that, oh, my child is interested in art or law, or, STEM doesn't apply to them is actually incorrect. Everyone should actually be exposed to STEM skills.
Okay, so you've been around now for 10 years. The STEM Met has been around for 10 years. Tell me, and of course, I imagine that the kind of reception you would have now in 2024 is quite different from what you would have had in 2014. So just kind of walk us through what that journey has been like and what the growth path has been like for you.
So for us, the education wasn't really just for the children. It was for the parents. Yes. It was for the schools. It was for even, government officials. So of course, at first, a lot of doors were closed to us because there wasn't really an understanding, especially when we now started to talk about the flagship products that we had, which was the Bricks for Kids using Lego. Oh, no, they already have Lego. Or parents, oh, no, my kids have a lot of Lego toys. And I'm like, fantastic, that is great. However, how is it being used as a tool deliberately and intentionally, to teach them, biology, or to teach them physics, or to even just teach them discipline, actually. Because if you're building something with Lego and you're getting frustrated, the idea is also to teach you resilience. So that's where those life skills come in. So there was a lot of education that we had to do for, those stakeholders that I mentioned. I'm happy to say over this last 10 years, it's kind of become the in word, and I always have to clarify that, look, STEM is not just coding. So I'll get these calls. Do you code? Yes, we do actually. Oh, do you do STEM? Oh, okay, you guys, So there's still a lot of education that needs to happen, and not all STEM practitioners are the same. So to be clear, I almost feel that it's jumping on the bandwagon sort of thing. But for me, if it creates more awareness generally, I think I'm happy with that.
And has the program itself changed over that 10-year period? So AI is sort of a really big focus right now. Are you applying that? I think the Legos you've talked about as a pretty important learning tool. Are they doing chemistry? Are they doing, what are they doing here?
Yeah, so, it really has evolved. So we started off with the Lego aspect of things. And of course, we did that for many years. And then, of course, COVID happened. And I think that really opened the can of worms and gave a lot of the schools and the parents the realization that, look, this thing is not optional. Having digital skills or having future-ready skills is not optional. So we found that a lot of our programs evolved from after-school programs to co-curricular, where some schools actually take our programs as subjects. So in that time also we evolved and we partnered with a variety of international edtech companies. So we offer sound and technology, so where the creativity can be coming from that aspect, where you're using technology to develop sound and application. We started offering UX design for kids, really from the design thinking aspect, not just the coding. Of course, we do the coding and the robotics. And so for us, it would give us time to scour the earth, literally, to really, what are the emerging trends? Where is education going? Where is application of technology going in education? And of course, we have AI now. November 30th, 2022 was when all our lives changed with ChatGPT. And of course, you're hearing the horrors and, oh gosh, the kids will cheat. But I think it's almost ignorant for us to, just like in the early days, oh, I don't want my child to go on the internet because I'm scared of what they'll see. I think we're doing them a disservice. So I'm really an advocate for AI literacy for kids. As you mentioned, in the future workforce they're going into, they are going to be expected to know how to use AI. Even Microsoft alone with Copilots, it's not just Word anymore. You're expected to know how to use these AI-driven tools.
It's in WhatsApp, it's in Instagram.
It's in everything.
It's embedded into everything.
So if you're saying these children should not know or should not be exposed to it, I think you're doing them a disservice. And then secondly, a lot of educational tools do have AI embedded in it, not just for the children, but for the teachers, which I think we often forget in this equation, that it's actually a fantastic tool for our teachers. A lot of the teachers are burdened with administrative work. You're creating content or lesson plans every term. With the AI, generative AI, you can do your content plan for 3 terms in like 10 minutes, Wow. So it's more engaging for the children. It's more creative in terms of what the teachers are even planning, the quizzes, how the children are learning is more engaging, and they're able to retain and recollect more.
So you've taken us to an interesting space now, which is inclusivity, right? You talk about including the teachers, but I think even taking a step back, I would imagine that a lot of children that participate in STEM Mets are probably from private institutions. My question now is, what does the broader story look like when it comes to embedding STEM in the national curriculum? And is there what is the story there?
I think it's a bit frustrating, if I'm honest, because a lot of this has to be driven through a national policy in education. So believe it or not, the AU, the African Union, actually has a science and technology initiative, which a lot of the African countries have signed up to. But there's a gap between policy and practice.
Right.
And so the implementation across African countries, it varies.
Right.
So you'll see countries like Rwanda, Kenya, who are a bit more, ahead compared to ours. But having said that, in Nigeria in itself, it's almost as if it depends on the governor or it depends on the states. So some states have, taken the initiative a bit more seriously and, have tried to, I'm trying to be polite here, more than just a photo op and a big project. I've taken steps to at least show interest and have had a few initiatives. But at the end of the day, it really needs to draw down from a national policy, honestly, because as you said, the curriculum needs to be overhauled anyway.
Yes.
So without that, sadly, it's challenging to see how it can become mainstay. So, of course, a number of NGOs and, development partners have taken upon themselves, and people like us as well in the private sector, that, look, while they're trying to sort that out, we don't know how long that is going to be. We seek out sort of partnerships through grants, partnerships. So we have a partnership with Airbus Foundation. And every time we have that grant, we are deliberate in taking it to the low-resource schools. And so that's the way that we've been able to, trying to contribute our quota. Because if you go to government directly, it's always, we don't have money.
Right.
You go and get the funding, we'll give you the schools, etc. But we can't embed this into the program.
So that's an intervention rather than a long-term.
Exactly, which is the challenge. So it's almost as if, it's a drop in the ocean, but it's a drop nevertheless, right? That one contact, can be life-changing for that child. And I'm willing to take that opportunity or that risk that, yes, it may only be one workshop, but you'll be amazed at what goes on when we've gone to those schools and those children are hungry to learn.
You just mentioned the Airbus Foundation, and I know they have a program in Sub-Saharan Africa called the Airbus Little Engineer Assembly Workshop. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so we signed a partnership with Airbus Little Engineer about 3 years ago. So we run their robotics and coding programs in Nigeria. And it's been great in that it's allowed us to go into the schools. But and I'm grateful for the partnership, but it saddens me also because you have this international, multinational company who is already sowing seeds in the hearts and minds of Nigerian children, right? Because we have this demographic dividend, don't we, in terms of young and youthful. So imagine I'm a 10-year-old in Agege High School and I've done this workshop and you do a presentation and that Airbus is seeded in my mind, right? It's like, I remember them, they came to my school and they're going to come and recruit from Africa because we are the ones that have the youth, we are the ones that have the population. And if this tech tech skills are developed early enough, they'll remember who came to their school.
Yes, indeed.
Like, about how many schools do you reach with this program, and what kind of schools? I think you've talked about them being sort of lower income schools.
Yeah, so initially we started with, let's just try and get as many children. But like I said, personally, I've been really intentional that we'll take them. So over the 3 years we've been doing it, I think we're probably on about 4,000 across Lagos, Oyo, Ogun State as well. And so we literally travel around the Southwest to reach the children. And then we started working with low-resource private schools as well through one of our partnership with an organization called SEED, because they're low-resource private school, they call them affordable private school, actually account for 70% of the students in Lagos, believe it or not.
Interesting.
Majority of our students don't go to state-run schools. They go to low-cost private schools, as they call them. So we started to work with an organization that works with those schools to also take it to those children that are not in the government-run schools.
So tell us a bit more about STEMMET's funding. Is it self-funded? Is it profit, non-for-profit?
So STEMMET is a social enterprise, so it is a for-profit. And over the last 10 years, I think the only grant we've had is really from Airbus, from abroad. And it's really been a passion project. So we're not an NGO, which a lot of people think, oh yeah, that's your hobby, your NGO. But we have really been trying to grow organically. We do have a foundation aspect to our business, which, the idea is to use that as a tool specifically for, low resource and low income schools for us to be able to take our programs there. But yeah, we're striving. We're 10 years. We're still standing, and we really have great plans, for our STEM center and our makerspace, so that it will be a destination for everything science and technology. If you think about it, we don't have science museums. We don't really have places where our kids can go on excursions. So honestly, that's really our the next 10 years that we're looking out to be able to have those STEM centers in major cities around Nigeria.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, through our STEM festival, that's another angle that we're doing as mass education, where yes, it is a one-day event, but it's everything STEM under one roof, where the parents and students can come. For us, it's that spark. Igniting that spark is always the primary aim. Either it's one encounter, either it's termly, it's through the academic year, but that one contact we believe is enough to really be life-changing.
That's the fair point you make, that we don't actually have anywhere where children can go and be inspired and say, you know what, actually I want to do this thing, or this is amazing that this was built here, right? I want to be able to do it. And I think we take that for granted for kids that are able to travel out, that they get their inspiration from other places.
Exactly.
But then again, when you think about the youth population that we have here, to imagine that they would be otherwise uninspired.
It's huge, because the first STEM festival we did, I think we were just naive. It was free. And we had over 6,000 people at Landmark. I remember driving in there 7 o'clock in the morning. I was like, why is there so much traffic? What's the big event that's happening at Landmark? What's going on? Not realizing that we were the big event, and we had this school, this woman left Otta at 3 a.m. with the kids from her school just because they wanted to come. It was great, but it was also heartbreaking that these are Nigerian children. How can they be taking pictures against a TV screen? Because it was just so... It was a big TV screen, those big screens that you have at the event. But it was just so exciting and eye-opening for them that,
interesting.
Honestly...
For those in the audience who don't know, what is a makerspace?
So a makerspace is a destination where children come to learn, to tinker, to make, and just be inspired and build things, in essence. That's basically what a makerspace. So you're making something, and it's a space for you to be creative. It's a space for you. It's not necessarily structured learning, but you're putting things together. You're thinking and you're imagining, actually, and you're just pouring all that out in real life.
Let me just follow up on that.